Alright, something else I want to mention here. When you're looking at a deck, of course you could always see the grain in the wood. And I'm trying to find a good example of this. You basically have late wood and early wood. And the early wood is the wider portion of the band. The late wood, it would be the growth ring. You know, the late wood would be the narrow, more rigid portion of a band. It's kind of hard to see in this video. You can kind of see the difference here. Everywhere you got a straight line is your late wood, and then the wide bands between it is the early wood, which is the growth of the tree throughout the year. And every year, of course, you get a new line, and the tree grows, and that's where you get your growth rings. If you use too much stripper to strip a deck, and this is why dwell time is very important. If you have a deck that has an oil-based stain on it, and you're trying to remove the oil-based stain, you do need to use that caustic. Well, once you put that oil-based product on there, and you have to keep getting it wet because it doesn't work when it's dry, you know when it's working when you rub your finger across it and you see stain come off on your hand. That's generally like, if you leave it on too long, and not so much with this because this is pine, this is a womanized or a treated deck. You can tell a couple different ways. You can tell by the knot pattern in it. You can tell by the structural splits generally, and you can kind of tell by doing a fingernail test. You can also see, you can't really see it on the film, but it's starting to kind of cup like this, and that's very characteristic of pine. If you're dealing with a cedar deck, though, it's even more crucial because cedar is so soft, and what happens is if you use too much stripper, or if you let it sit too long, or if you use too much pressure, what you'll essentially do is, because these middle bands in here are not as structurally, they're not as hard, you'll actually gouge that out, and you'll be left with these ridges, these high spots, and you'll have these low spots, these valleys in there. And it makes for a very uneven surface. It does not hold the stain as well, and it just doesn't look as good. So really what I'm saying is, when you use a stripper on a deck, especially soft wood like redwood or cedar or fir or anything like that, you want to make sure that your stripper is not left on to the point where it's starting to pull. And you'll know if it's on too long. When you power wash the deck, you'll see a lot of pulp. A lot of that pulp will come out of there. It's not always a result of too much stripper. Sometimes pulp can just be dead fibers coming off the deck too, like the other deck we did for my buddies. That was just a result of the dead fiber coming off. So some of that's going to be natural, but you'll definitely see a difference if you're using too much stripper. So.